Hey, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome to, I don't even know what week it is, week eight, week 7 or 8. This is the last week we will be discussing not Brave New World, sorry, the other dystopia, 1984 by George Orwell. This lecture is going to be quick. Just going to summarize the third book and maybe add in some final thoughts. And then next week we're going to have a quiz and a paper due, and then we start Neuromancer, which is our last book that we'll be reading. Then we move on to television, science fiction television, which is a fun unit. So let's just dig right into this. Pull my notes up. All right, book 3. So book 2 ended with Winston and Julia getting caught. And the third book opens with Winston in a cell in the Ministry of Love. And he is basically waiting for his verdict and for his demise. He learns about the dreaded Room 101, which becomes a sort of theme in book 3. It's basically the worst possible place a person can end up. We don't really know why at first, but the way that others react to it when they're selected to be put in there, we can tell that it's a place that no one wants to end up. So he quietly prays at one point that Big Brother will send him a razor blade or something, where he could just, end his own life and not have to sort of endure the beatings and the starvation that is almost definitely going to come, and that he's going to be subjected to. And then at this particular moment, O'Brien, his fellow conspirator who gave him the book, walks into the cell. He enters the cell, and Winston thinks that at first that the man has been arrested too. But when O'Brien states that they got him a long time ago, Winston realizes that his fellow co-conspirator was a operative all along. And then the beatings commence. Winston is subjected to prolonged torture sessions, and everything is overseen by O'Brien. And O'Brien tells Winston that his crime, his overall crime, is refusal to accept the party's control over his own mind and that of history. And as an example, O'Brien holds up 5 fingers and asks Winston how many. Obviously, Winston says the correct amount. Someone holds up 5 fingers, you say 5, and he gets tortured even more for it. I think it's some sort of electrical shock, and it's not until Winston agrees that the amount of fingers held in front of him is actually 4 before the pain will stop. And this is, I think, the most frustrating part of the book, because it's not only that he agrees, he has to believe that 5 equals 4. He can't just BS his way through it, and he knows this, and that's, I think, what's so terrifying, this sort of anticipatory state of knowing that he's going to feel the pain, he's going to just be tortured, basically because he hasn't been cured yet. So during this, O'Brien gives him like a bit of a truncated history about the party, and how the party has sort of perfected the art of control without killing anyone. And he mentions the Nazis and the Soviets. Um, and Winston begins to understand what doublethink is now. And the only thing that he clings on to, the only hope that he has, really the only thing that's keeping him alive is Julia and whether or not she's okay. And O'Brien tells him that she sold Winston out almost immediately. So this goes on for weeks, and Winston's physical deterioration is obvious. He loses his hair. He is losing weight. He's losing his teeth. O'Brien forces him at one point to look at himself in the mirror and see the shell of the man that he's become. And Winston hardly even recognizes himself. He looks that terrible. So there's a lull in the book again, like there was in book 2, which is again, a technique that Orwell uses brilliantly. And it gives us this sort of sense of false comfort. And it makes what happens to Winston more shocking, because at this point he's being given a comfortable room. He's being fed better. He's gaining a little weight. So we think that maybe he's going to be freed, and the torture will stop. But at one point he can't help his emotions, and he's, I guess, helpless over his love for Julia. So he begins to sort of scream her name. And that's it. The guards come in and O'Brien comes in and they take him to room 101. So now we finally get to see what is room 101. And basically what room 101 is, it's different for everybody. It depends on a person's, you're basically your worst nightmare. Winston is rats. We talked about this, rats are sort of common trope through this book. And of course, Winston's biggest fear is rats. And O'Brien brings a cage full of them, hungry, half-starved rats, and places them in front of Winston. And he tells Winston that they haven't eaten and that they will basically eat his face unless Winston gives up Julia. And he does, of course. And that's basically it. Winston is eventually let go, completely changed, completely reformed by the party. The last chapter of the book is the aftermath, and he's this sort of a gin drinking, telescreen watching drone who accepts everything that the party says or does. All the propaganda he accepts without question. He thinks of Julia occasionally. He thinks of having sex with her and is absolutely repulsed by these things. And his mind is sort of completely whitewashed of every deviant thought he may have had in the past. He's just basically not capable of having these thoughts anymore. He's really not capable of focusing on anything anymore for a very long period of time. And I don't know if this holds any credence, but this kind of reminds me of you remember in book number 1 when he's in the bar and he buys the old man a beer and he's asking the old man these questions and the guy just can't answer them. And I'm wondering if that old man went through what Winston has just recently gone through. I mean, that's only speculation. He is a prole too, so maybe he's just old and he just doesn't remember things very well. I don't know, but that's what that kind of reminded me of, because I remember during the scene where they have that discussion, Winston is basically questioning him and asking him about what the world was like prior to the party taking over, and the old man just he really can't answer him definitively. So I don't know, maybe maybe there's like a correlation there. I'm not sure. But he does see Julia one more time, and it's kind of there's no fireworks or anything. It's sort of they admit to one another that they sold each other out, and then they just sort of go on. And really, the only comfort that Winston has is at the end of the book, he stares at a big poster of Big Brother, and I think the final line is he finally learned to love Big Brother. So really, the only comfort he gets is in the face, this big monstrous face, and that's it. That's the end of 1984. It is quite bleak. It's not the happiest book written, but it's an important one, and I think this is it's really cool to be able to see the intersectionality between literature and science fiction, and this is proof that science fiction can be absolutely literature. I personally think that all the books we're reading in this class are literature, and basically in my opinion, what makes something literature is obviously good story, great story, great writing, but also it stands the test of time. And I think that 1984 absolutely stands the test of time, and it always will. It's a bit timeless in the way that it was written and produced. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. This probably is the most depressing book out of the bunch that we've read. Neuromancer is a bit more fast paced, and a lot of action, a lot of gratuitous violence and all that stuff. So it's definitely it's way different than 1984, and it's not a dystopia. So our unit on dystopia is over after this book, and that's really all I have as far as 1984 goes. If you like 1984, I would recommend George Orwell's. Oh, I have a couple of his books. Let me see. Obviously, Animal Farm. That's the other classic, right? But this guy, Why I Write. This is a book of essays that that Penguin published a few years ago. It's 4 essays, and it's just really, really great stuff. I mean, yeah, I would definitely recommend this. He writes about socio-political things as well as he writes fiction. So if you like George Orwell, definitely pick this book up. And that's really all I have. So have a nice weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week. I will have the quiz up and your paper topics on Monday, and they will obviously be due that Friday. And let me know if you have any questions. All right, have a good one.